Now by Senator Kamala Harris of California, who's running for the Democratic nomination for president. Senator, it's great to have you on, but not so much because of tonight. And I want you to give us a sense. I'm calling this political terrorism because I think this, like the assassination of Dr. King and the Kennedy's brothers, it's a political act aimed at making a political statement, a declaration, and that declaration echoes the president's own. Your thoughts?
Well, I call it domestic terrorism because, listen, there's no question that these are acts of violence that are motivated by hate and intended to terrorize our country. And we should think of it as a national safety threat in that way. I also think that we have to acknowledge that, first of all, it is born out of hate. It is creating fear. It is intended to create fear, much less intended to, obviously, to kill people, innocent people. But, I mean, you're mentioning it, Chris, in the context also of the president. His words have no meaning on this issue as well as many others. But on this issue in particular, his words have no meaning today. He waits this long to speak. He's the president of the United States. He should be bringing a sense of calm. He should be bringing a sense of compassion. And, the guy's out playing golf after this happened. And I think that what it speaks to is a failure of leadership across the board. And then on the issue of gun violence, in addition to the issue of the white nationalism and the hate that are behind this, we need action, and we need action that is called on by the President of the United States and that is acted on by the United States Congress. But we see a failure across the board. I'll tell you, when I'm elected, I'm going to give the United States Congress 100 days to pull their act together on this and put a bill on my desk for signature. And if they do not, I will take executive action. I'll put in place a comprehensive background requirement. I'll put in place a requirement that we ban the importation of assault weapons into our country. I'll require that we support the ATF in taking the licenses of gun dealers who violate the law. Because it is, enough of talking about this, enough of the beautiful speeches and the grand gestures. We need action. The American people deserve it, they want it, and we need it.
Let's talk about the assault weapons. We had a pretty good ban in place from 94 to 2004, thanks to your colleague, Senator Dianne Feinstein. That was a big part of her effort. California is very good on guns, I think. It's a state that, like Connecticut, has some brains about the subject for some reason. Why don't we have that now? Apparently, Tom DeLay refused to let it come out in the House. It was died in a sunset provision in the act. It always struck me, why would the Congress let that die? Why, is it just NRA power?
Well, I've always asked about this. What is the deal with the NRA? And being in D.C. now for 2.5 years as a senator, it's clear to me that special interests have a firm grasp on a lot of people on Capitol Hill, and the NRA included. And at some point, people have got to have the courage of their convictions and understand that to be elected a member of the United States Congress means to take on a role and responsibility of having the best interest of the American people and their health, safety, and well-being in your priorities, and the highest priority. But these members of Congress, they walk around with these fancy lapel pins, and they have staff chasing them around as they walk up and down the halls, and they take pictures, and they take all the benefits of being a member of the United States Congress. But on this issue, no responsibility. And it is a failure. It is a failure to act based on what people know to be right, which is to reject a false choice, which suggests you're either in favor of the Second Amendment or you want to take everyone's guns away. Like, just act. This is not about saying we're going to take everyone's guns away. We're saying we need reasonable gun safety laws, including universal background checks. And to your point, Chris, a renewal of the assault weapons ban. It's just the right thing to do.
How far can you go? Look, I've heard this speech before from others, and I've also watched people's careers end because of the NRA. We had a great liberal senator when I was growing up named Joe Clark, a fabulous. He was defeated by the NRA. It's possible. Tom Foley had to deal with the NRA out in Spokane. I mean, they're a frightening group. What do you say to your colleagues who face political elimination at the hands of the NRA? Do you tell them it's worth a hill to die for? How do you tell them that?
Chris, people are dying every day in America.
I'm just asking, how do you convince people that
we just saw this happen, but this is the point. But this is the point. Here, now I'm going to get into a good, strong shouting match with you.
Go for it.
Listen, people, we have babies who have been orphaned in El Paso. You look at what happened in Dayton, in Gilroy, California, in Poway, California, in the Tree of Life Synagogue. People are dying in America. Blood is being shed. And if these elected leaders aren't prepared to stand for something, to the point that maybe they might lose the job, but they will have done the right thing, they need to move over. Because what the American people deserve is to have leaders who act with courage. And you know what? It's not enough to lead with your heart. There's another piece of the anatomy that they also need to use.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention what that is.
No, I got it. I got you on that. Let me ask you about this president and his, what you pointed out is his phony baloney thing he did in the last couple of days. He's out playing golf. He goes to a birthday party. He didn't seem to be all that interested in this horror that took place in El Paso at all. And then he comes out with this statement read almost like by a POW. Like he didn't write that statement. All this about the evils of nationalism and everything and hatred. Yeah. Who wrote that? How did you react when you heard those, what I call phony baloney? I talk like Joe Biden here, faux malarkey or whatever it is. What do you make of what he was saying today?
They were empty words, Chris, and I think that there is a clear disconnect, as usual, between what is actually happening in our country and the level of awareness that this president has about his role and his responsibility. You know, again, we are dealing with immense tragedy. People are mourning. The fact that, one, these crimes were committed, and in particular, what happened in El Paso, motivated by hate, the kind of hate speech that this president speaks on a consistent basis. Yeah. And, you know, it's just, these are empty words. These are empty words that he's speaking. But let's get back to the point of it. The point of it has to be that we stand up and that leaders lead. And that includes, obviously, the President of the United States. And this president has shown he doesn't have the capacity to do that. And it is the United States Congress. But we can't wait any longer. And we have not lacked for good ideas. We've had plenty of good ideas. We are lacking for action and for people to have courage. And here's the other thing I'll say about the NRA, Chris, because I think it's really important. Responsible gun owners are in favor of background checks. Because responsible gun owners know that you might just want to know if somebody has been found to be a danger to themselves or others before you let them buy a gun. You just might want to know if someone has been convicted of a crime of violence before you let them buy a gun. You just might want to know. It's really practical, and those bullets are not distinguishing between Republicans and Democrats. So let's grow up, everyone, and take charge and lead.
I'm afraid, I want to ask you now a pretty tough question, I think, about leadership. I think the president is a leader in the worst way. When President Obama was elected, to the glory of this country, an African-American elected president, after our whole history, to have that come about. And he said, oh, no, he's a Kenyan. He's not even here legally, some sort of illegal immigrant type. And he's a fraud. You know, nobody has his high school records. Nobody knew him in school. He made him almost like a phantom. And then he goes after illegal immigrants, undocumented workers. And he goes after that group. So he goes after African Americans. Then he goes after Hispanic Americans, Latinos. The whole pattern seems to be white supremacy. It seems to be. And then this guy the other day kills 22 people in the name of...
It actually is.
Is he morally or legally or somewhere in the middle responsible for what's going on in this violence? The president.
Well, he is morally responsible for setting a tone in this country that is not speaking to the best of who we are. He is morally responsible for coddling and condoning this kind of thought and language and clearly action. It leads to action.
Thank you so much.
He doesn't but the point, Chris, is he doesn't understand the strength and the power of the president of the United States to do good. Instead, he does things that cause bad behaviors. And in this case, his kinds of words encourage the kind of action that we've seen in El Paso.
Is he educable?
Atypical?
Educable. Can he be educated? Will this educate him? He seemed to pull back on Ilhan Omar this week.
Absolutely
he seemed to pull back. He's not educable. He can't be
Chris,
corrected.
Listen, you know, Maya Angelou told us a long time ago, people tell you who they are the first time. Believe it. He has told us who he is.
Thank you so much. Senator Kamala Harris, candidate for president, U.S. Senator from California.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.